This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I'm just being me in a world that isn't. This is the Arbor single. I rode this with Burton Kendos, Burton Ions, Union Atlas, and Union Contact Pro / Super Pros. I got this in a wide variety of conditions, everything from hard snow to messy late afternoon spring snow to even a little bit of powder, wet, ugly spring powder. But hey, it's the best we could do with the conditions we had and the time that we had it. To give you a short summary, the Arbor single tries to emulate a single fin surfboard on snow, and it does a pretty good job at giving you definitely a different feel for that shorter, wider ride that a lot of companies are making these days. And it really has an interesting off the back foot steering kind of feel. And it is a lot more than just a powder board. This camber profile allows you to have a lot of fun turning on groomers and getting into it carve-wise. But what I found with what little powder I had, it just wasn't even trying. So it's going to be a good powder board, and it's a good groomer board. I would say it's not just a powder board. And it has a very unique off the back foot ride. Now, when it comes to sizing, I felt like this 52 was the right size for me. I think the 56 would be interesting too, but it might just be a little bit big for my size 9 boots. I felt like I could control this really well with my boots. I think the 56 would be a little better for my weight, but that's my life story, and that's what you've seen in a lot of other reviews. So if I were to choose, I'd probably go with boot size overweight for this board, because it could handle my weight well enough, and I think this is the right size for me, so I feel like this review is going to be on point with the right specs. So when it comes to shape, this is pretty tapered, 20 mil tapered, very directional and very set back on board. You're really steering off that back foot, and it's got a very typical tapered directional ride with this much setback on board. It's really all about a back foot ride. When it comes to camber profile, you have a directional camber going from the back foot kind of past the front foot. Then you have that fender uprise technology, but it's a lot longer and drawn out. It's just a thin little line that you can see kind of like right here. And what that does is it gives the board a little more lift and powder. It's not quite like a lot of the spoon tech, triple base technology and other stuff like that, but it's definitely a lot more than other fender uprise technology that you see next to it, like with the Clovis and the Coda. It's more long and drawn out and made to interact a little more with powder. What I found is it gave me a very stable feel underfoot, very back foot weighted, but stable and good to 1 foot and flat base. And because there isn't any real, like, if there is any, it's not noticeable, but I don't even think there is any fender uprise technology on the back foot. It was really cool because I felt like I had that just traditional camber grip and feel, that stable approach that feels good in all conditions, where like if you compare it to most of the Arbor boards, like all of the other Arbor boards I tried with uprise fender technology in the tail and the nose, I found that it can feel edgeless and washy in harder conditions. This doesn't. So that's kind of cool for an all conditions ride. It's moderately easy to skid your turns, and it's a pretty easy board to handle and control, but I still feel more comfortable with advanced to expert riders. Maybe a really competent athletic intermediate could handle this as well. Now let's talk flex here. You got like a nice kind of medium stiff. It doesn't feel too stiff and aggressive. It's kind of soft in the nose, softer, and a little stiffer in the tail that kind of matches a little bit more of this flex. And because of the camber profile, it's a little more work to butter than you would think off the tail. And every time I tried to do a tripod off the nose, the fender uprise, it just seemed to find that fender uprise and slide out. And I kept wondering, like, what the hell's wrong with me? Why can't I butter this? Why can't I do a simple tripod? I'm not an amazing butterer, but why can't I do it? And then I realized it's just the lifted sides. Just every time I went to do a tripod, it just kind of turned that way and slid out. And it's very difficult to butter with the nose if you're really gonna lean into it. But at least it's not on the tail, so it feels more balanced. When it comes to pop, it's got good energy underfoot, but it takes a little bit of work to engage that. It's a little damp, just a touch on the deader side compared to some boards. But once you give it a little bit, you get that same back in return. And I felt like overall it had good pop. It's just a unique personality compared to other brands that just might take a little bit of getting used to. Some will actually prefer this, some will actually prefer others. So it is what it is. It's not bad or good. Now, when it comes to speed, there was good bass glide, I felt. Not amazing, but definitely not bad at all. And I felt like it was pretty damp for a 52. It rode a little bigger than its size, and I liked that. It didn't feel like a chattery mess when you picked up a little bit of speed. It's no pointer, it's no bomber, but it does all right. And in uneven terrain, that personality I talked about that makes it just a little touch on the hard side to access the ollie power really helps in uneven terrain, and it powered through uneven snow better than I thought for its size, its taper, and its shape. It's still a smaller board and it can still buck you and bounce you around more than, let's say, the Clovis next to it or the Annex or, other tapered directional boards in Arbor's line. It's definitely going to be more on the bucky and bouncy side, but it's really good for a board this size. Now, when it comes to edge hold, I felt like this Grip Tech did a great job in hard snow. And what I loved is the personality felt the same, where when I was on the Clovis in harder snow and when I was on the Annex in harder snow, the A-frame and the Crosscut and a lot of other Arbor boards with fender uprise on the tip and the tail, those boards just felt like they didn't have an edge in really hard snow until you really leaned over and engaged that Grip Tech. So you had this moment of uncertainty where it felt edgeless and washy, and it's really hard to get used to at first, and it can take a while. So for some that might be a deal breaker, for others it won't. But for this board, it didn't have that feeling. In hard snow, it had the same personality as it did in soft snow, and that Grip Tech off the tail worked really well. Now, when it comes to turn initiation, this is a little bit wide, but you have, a narrow, small tail and a big wide nose and waist. And when you're steering off the back foot like that, it made the turn initiation medium quick. And it was pretty fast. And in powder, it's even faster, and it really turns well in the trees. It really is just a quick, easy turning board. And then when you get the side cut engaged and on groomers, I felt like it had a really balanced turning experience. It felt like it wasn't this little circle carver or like this wiggle specialist, although it would be great there. I felt like more it was balanced and it could just do some cool kind of, medium long drawn out S-turns, medium to medium long drawn out S-turns, not really those big bomby, kind of Annex or Crosscut or A-frame style, but kind of just its own fun little thing. And then when you really got into kind of across the groomer turns and carves, I felt like this did a pretty good job, especially like the more weight you gave off the back foot, the more this board responded. And I really tried to think about it and see if I was getting that single fin, because I've surfed my whole life, getting that single fin kind of feel. And it does have a very unique feel turning wise compared to a lot of other boards. I compared this against the Orca, the Telos Backslash. I compared this against the Burton Showstopper and a lot of other boards like my Yes Hybrid, like the GNU Gremlin, and they all had their own unique turning experience, and this was definitely felt like the most off the tail, and it felt loose on the tail like a single fin does too. And it definitely is more of a feel. I'm more personally of a tri-fin kind of guy and like a quad kind of guy. I like that kind of vertical surfing, but this single fin kind of feel was really fun on snow. And when it comes to powder, man, I wish I had footage of like just, you know, tits deep powder to really show what this is all about, but the winter did not allow, and I sat on this board just basically till the end of the season. We're looking at almost summer here as I'm doing this review, because I was just hoping we might get a powder day. After I got this board, just kind of like shit just shut off. So I got some powder, some wet powder, and I was really surprised at how it just, everything I'm talking about on groomers got a little bit more enhanced, and it was more fun and more turny. And it seemed to have good float. I'd really love to test it in the deep. But based on, you know, this big ass nose, this tiny ass little pin tail, all these inserts, a very good setback on board in relation to side cut. There is a lot of setback on board. I think this will do well, and even with those lifted sides, that's just that long uprise fender technology, did a lot better in powder than a lot of other uprise fender boards that I've tried. And speaking of another board with a lot of uprise fender, the Terrapin, I felt like this was a board I would choose over the Terrapin. I couldn't get into a groove with the Terrapin turning as much as I could with this one. And I think this would be the choice of the two Arbor boards that are kind of like powder dominant. I like this a little better. So overall, I thought this was a fun experience. I think there were other boards here and there that I would have a little more fun on, and powder turning and everything. But that's just my riding style. I was never really a single fin kind of guy when it comes to surfing. So I think that's why this board and I weren't like perfect together. But I could have a great life with this, and I really enjoyed the way this turned. This just had such a fun back foot surfy, drivey kind of feel on groomers. Really shines. I think Arbor is underestimating this board's performance on groomers and the way they market it. And I would not say this is just a powder board. If you do, you're really cutting this board short. It really excels in groomers. It's really fun to turn. It could be a very fun, small, one board quiver for that directional kind of surfy style rider who wants like just a unique feel off the back foot. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now, if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.